Good afternoon, and what is a warm, bright, and sunny day. It is Wednesday, the 13th of September. I've got a nice hot cup of tea. And a role-playing game, a box to unbox, and a role-playing game to pull out. And that is Pasión de las Pasiones, which is published by Magpie Games. So, the music swells as Elena enters the church, her silver dress dancing around her heels. The camera zooms to her face as she catches sight of Domingo, or El Amor de su Vida, the man she will marry in secret tonight. Elena's eyes light with joy and she starts forward, gliding then running, a joyful laugh escaping her lips. She catches her beloved's shoulder, and he turns to reveal that he is her beloved's evil twin, Juan Carlos. Pasión de las Pasiones is a tabletop role-playing game that guides you and your friends to craft and bring to life your very own telenovelas, complete with heroes, villains, love, war, secrets, and revelations. No matter whether you're playing a heroic Empalida, struggling to connect with her true love, or a dastardly Jefe trying to quash that burgeoning romance, you're guaranteed a thrilling story. Inside this book, you will find 6 unique playbooks, each allowing you to play a vital and exciting telenovela archetype. 2 pre-made playsets chock full of tense and interesting situations to get you playing fast, along with rules to create playsets of your own. Expansion and guidance on telenovela-style storytelling, including ways for the audience to directly affect the game. Rules for everything from cheating certain death to retconning the past for dramatic reveals. It's designed for 3 to 5 players, plays in 2 to 4 hours, and its rating is teenagers. So, Magpie Games do some interesting games. They are best known perhaps today for one of the biggest Kickstarters in role-playing, which is Avatar Legends. But they've also adapted things like the Root board game into a role-playing game, which is of woodland animals attempting to sort of navigate their way through factions and sort of small conspiracies from clearing to clearing, with a couple of outside threats being a danger throughout the whole of the forest. And also Cartel, which is a really powerful role-playing game about holding a square in Mexico as part of the drug war, and the stories that emerge from the characters in there. So this uses the Powered by the Apocalypse, as with those other role-playing games, but is all about the melodramatic stories you get in telenovelas. Now, to be fair, my exposure to the telenovela genre is vicarious. It's really through sort of like discussion of other characters, watching them and being big fans on television. So if you look like American dramas and you have Hispanic characters, in many cases some of them will be big fans of these telenovelas, and they are a big thing, sort of like a big part of the culture, Hispanic culture, in both North and South America. Then again, let's be fair, the English-speaking world has its own soap opera subcultures. So in a lot of cases, the North American one, where you'll have the big glitzy kind of soap operas, like Dynasty and Dallas and that kind of thing, as well as the sort of the more kind of sort of down at heel ones, where they're sort of like set in hospitals, like Emergency Ward 10 or something like that, and Falcon Crest and All Our Tomorrows, and so on. I mean, in many cases, I've only kind of heard of them more than watched. Here in the United Kingdom, in Great Britain, we have more. Our soap stories tend to be slices of everyday life rather than aspirational, as was Dallas or Dynasty. So we are talking Emmerdale Farm, life in a farming community, Coronation Street, life on a street in a Manchester or a northern town, or life on a London East End community in EastEnders, and they just meant to be sort of like kind of a bit gritty and tailing towards the grim in many cases. So, but here we've got glossy, glitzy storylines full of, the passion of the passions, as it were. So, we end up with acknowledgements and table of contents and an introduction. So essentially what I'm saying is that kind of like, even if the individual sort of kind of storytelling style isn't necessarily one that you can be familiar with, you are at least familiar with the concept, because you'll be exposed to your own soap operas no matter where you come from. So basically we've got acknowledgements, then a discussion of what the game is, what it's about, and in particular about the stars and the audience, because you have an audience for these big telenovelas, and they will become wrapped up in the storylines, and they'll have their favorite characters and their favorite heroines and heroes, and also villains, and their input will sometimes influence the outcome of the storyline. Then a villain might die, but they might want to see him come back, or so on. So then discussion of what you need and how to play the game, and what Powered by the Apocalypse is. And then we get into discussion of telenovelas. I also say additional materials. You will need some photos for your stars or less important characters, and so on, and a way to play music, because you need all that music sort of like as the cues, a bit of tension at the right point when the villain turns up, music sort of like, a bit of a, when the, the hero and heroine go in for that kiss, the swell music swells, a profession of true love, as it were. So, discussion of what telenovelas are, soap operas in prime time, and what they break down is essentially, will you truly bear your soul? Beautiful people trying to find love, melancholy and joy, wealth and status are all involved, and the reality of the situation. That essentially majority of telenovelas tend to stick with settings that aren't full-on fantastical science fiction. Often the most impressive, magical, weirdest future tech is face imitation surgery that lets one character look like exactly like another, so you're going to impersonate them and muddy up the storylines. And it's essentially, interestingly, and it asks questions sort of like, what about K-drama? Can you use it to play other similar dramas, other similar soap operas? But essentially, this game itself ultimately is a Latinx game. It is a game drawn from Latin culture and about characters who are Hispanics, Latin characters themselves. So, gets on to basics and things like framing a scene, the conversation, and so on. Next, the basics of role playing. And if you've played Power by the Apocalypse, so very much of this is going to be familiar. If you've played a storytelling game, again, it's going to be familiar. What do you do following fiction and the use of moves and dice? This is all going to be very similar to other similar games. Like Cartel and Root, for example, and the outcomes, hits and misses, triggers uncertainty and how to agree on uncertainty, because nothing is ever quite certain in a telenovela. You're going to have, it's this right now, but no, it's really this, and that's going to be revealed in the next, or not necessarily the next episode, but an episode sort of like 6 months down the line when Juan comes back to replace his sibling. So, discussion of how to prepare a game, selecting and setting up the playset. Of course, safe at the table, handling the nature of sex and romance with lines and veils and the X card. That's important because of the nature of the subject. You know, it's going to be strong, stirring stuff. It's going to be about romance and love. You know, and then drawing a line, about, you know, drawing a veil over the sex scene, as it were. Then we're looking at, you know, why we play, and then who you play. So, discussion of your playbooks. Playbook is essentially is an archetype which you can modify. And things you look at things like the conditions and meltdowns and things that, you know, the conditions of what a player character can suffer. Meltdowns can what can happen if ultimately the suffering becomes too much. And each character has moves and features, which when you pick a playbook, you are free to choose from, as well as give the answers to the backstory questions and your relationships and so on. And then, of course, at the end, we have a guide to last time on, because, you know, there's an ongoing story. You always want to recap at the beginning of every episode. So when we get onto the playbooks, you know, so we have La Baliza, and a guide to how to, you know, center for attention, flirtatious, luxurious and gorgeous, El Caballero. I would have liked to sort of like a bit more, so basically more a discussion of, okay, for the benefit of non-Hispanics, i.e. me, what these roles are, but there's a little bit more, more upfront than, say, how to play it, sort of like, you know, quick thumbnail description would have been useful, I think. But we've also got like the moves. So La Baliza is, you've got big entrance, hard to pin down, Ice Queen, and Up Boy as her moves. And then for El Caballero, you know, basically is the kind of person who handles things head on, excessive, protective, and direct, prone to grand gestures and taking stands. So, you know, he's doing things for your protection. The grand gesture size things up and take a stand, and those are his moves. La Donna is going to be manipulative, vengeful, and powerful schemer. The Empalada is the naive, hard-working, innocent. She's going to be the victim. And then at here we have a Gemolo. He's going to be the twin. So the dastardly twin, jealous, destructive, and misunderstood. And he's got things like, you know, moves like almost the same, almost like his twin's move. Story spinner, able to, you know, tell a story. And then that wasn't me. And twin tide. And then El Jefe is going to be the muscle. You know, and then we have description of the different moves and how to do them, you know, how to use them, how to bring them to the game, because every different playbook has its own moves, but you've got general moves you can take as well, the basic moves. So for example, I accuse someone of lying. You know, you're going to be doing that, not all the time, but yeah. Get what you want, demand what you deserve, express your love passionately. Manipulate the superior, spot something out of place, you know, hold on, what's that? Strike out with voice or violence, you know. And then we have peripheral moves, extra thing, flashback moves. So, you know, you can have a sort of, you know, sort of the screen going wavy, and then, you know, the harp sort of like, you know, is plucked out, and you sort of cut flashback to an earlier scene, which of course, so for example, but you're my, you're my beloved's dastardly twin. I thought you were dead, but no, of course I'm not dead. I managed to escape, the fireball of the car as it escaped over the cliff. Oh, how did you do that? Flashback. And reveal a shocking truth at a certain death. And suddenly got various conditions you can suffer, like brooding, cagey, cautious, full list there. Then we have meltdown. What happens when you becomes too much? And of course, last time on, Phil will go on to advancements and how you improve the character. We've got a guide to running the game. Make the telenovela feel heightened and romantic. Keep the characters' lives volatile and unstable. Play to find out what happens, and so on. So good advice. It's as much advice as an analysis of the genre, because you're taking that analysis and applying it to the game. You're putting it into practice. To reward cruelty, but reward kindness later. So that's a fantastic principle. That's sort of like, you be evil now and get what you want, but ultimately kindness will win out. Be a fan of the player characters, but push them off balance when they get comfortable. Because it's an ongoing storyline. You cannot have, they settle down and happily live happily ever after. No, something else bad is going to happen. So lots of advice, lots of principles to address. So this is quite a bit of a complex thing for the game master to handle. So it's best aimed for sort of like a more experienced player, more experienced game master, and similarly, this is a game really aimed at more experienced players because of the nature of what is being played. And then got a guidance on how to run the playbooks, and connecting up to the moves from the MC, the master controller. Here are the programs. This is how they run. Here's how you interact with them. That's a great touch. And then we have play sets, and those are kind of setups for particular storylines. Previously, you could have a session 0 where you say you lay the foundation of the game, you discuss the nature of it and its mature and adult content and what you want to see in it, and then we have a guide to playset construction, so you can the game master can create her own adding details such as locations, NPCs and more. And then we have an example playset, La Rosa Correada. So essentially this one it's a posh upper class hotel nestled in the cliffs above a crystal clear bay. The hotel is lavish with a white marble, beautiful tide mosaics and seafoam green black splashes. The enormous twisting pool circle the hotel with numerous bars dotted along the patio. The elite come to La Rosa not simply to sleep and dine in the finest accommodations, but to rub elbows, make deals and further enrich themselves. It is among this finery that our story unfolds, the fine crystal and shimmering chandeliers offering mirrored reflections of the sins that most make us feel alive. And the image description was sort of like, as a show, that's a setup. And this one is designed for people who are not familiar with the genre. I've got a list of NPCs and locations and role questions. So essentially you can do the casting. Previous episodes, so you set things up. And then you've got tips to run this playset. And then we have El Sabor de l'Amor essentially is a playset that focuses upon keeping things flirty, light and bright. Attempts to capture the feel of suddenly blossoming flirtatious love while also giving space for familial drama. The Salazar family has owned La Nautica for generations, a restaurant that has surpassed the taste and composition of any establishment in the city. Rising up from a hole in the wall to an elegant must-see, La Nautica has been through a lot. Every dish is created with recipes handed down and constantly improved. The kitchen sizzles with the stress that comes from constantly pursuing and sometimes achieving perfection. Between the steam and the clattering pots of raw love, tastes as perfect as it looks. So it does the same thing with NPCs, locations, previous episodes, details of the introduction, and more, and tips for the setting. And then, so we've essentially now we talk about exploring Pasión de las Pasiones for long-term play. So not just beyond the first session, but going beyond that. After the first session, looking at a season, planning your season, setting up the conflicts and romance and other elements, sins, power, family, tying those in. The finale at the end of the season. And then we have a long example, so a setup, which the game master can use if she wants. And this includes, this is an example of play, so you can get an idea of how the game is played through the write-up, and that's several pages long. And we've got a section of custom moves which you can create, and how to build them, and so on. So we have an appendix with names, masculine and feminine, and so on. Place names, songs, and MacGuffins to throw into the mix. So you've got a few tools and elements, which the master of ceremonies, the game master, can use. Names of telenovelas and name generators as well. I would have liked a bibliography, I think. That would have been useful. Perhaps a source, basically some source material and some writing about the subject would have helped back that up. But otherwise, Pasión de las Pasiones. This looks terrific. Essentially, it is. You're going to have lots of melodrama and overacting and player versus action, player versus actions, player versus player action throughout a playthrough of this. And it's not going to be for everyone, but I think people, I can see people really enjoying this, getting into the genre, and it's really rich, soapy storylines. As absurd as they're going to get, and convoluted they're going to get as they go on. So yeah, Pasión de la Pasión, published by Magpie Games. Well, hope you've enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook. If you have, then please do click on the like button down below. And of course, if you've got any comments or feedback, I do appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to more unboxings in the Nook, where you'll see me out here with a box containing a book or game which I will unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea, then please do click on the subscribe button down below. Thanks again for watching another unboxing in the Nook, and we'll be back again soon with another one. Bye for now.